Today, we're going to look at the business and future of streaming. Is streaming the answer for revenue woes? Now, what's happening with streaming? The deans at several journalism schools are pondering streaming as one way to bring in revenue. Dean Batts here wants to stand up a Cronkite streaming service by May. So, if any of you are looking for something to do in the spring, please come into the New Media Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab to help me set this up. Now, some 87% of US internet households now subscribe to one or more streaming video services, and about 20% subscribe to 8 or more over-the-top or OTT services. Now, think about how many you might have in your household, how many that your parents or your grandparents might have, or how many you might have yourself. This represents a substantial growth compared to even 5 years ago. The OTT market is valued at 150 billion as of 2021. Mainstream media organizations have launched niche offerings, and there are so many out there that it's almost overwhelming. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more. Some of the network streaming examples include Paramount, which owns CBS, Peacock, which owns NBC, CBS News has their 24/7 streaming service, ABC, same thing, and then there's CNN streaming. Other streaming partnerships include CBS and the Weather Channel, Tegna and the True Crime Network, Hearst and the CW, and NBC and McGreal. What's the appeal to this? Ad-supporting streaming, particularly fast linear channels, can be used to distribute content that has relatively limited audience appeal, that can never justify its own channel on traditional broadcast or even pay TV. Some examples include the Dogs and Cats 24/7 network on Pluto TV, National Hot Rod Association. There's the Televisa Univision VIX Spanish language service, and then Bounce TV as well. Earlier this year, Whoopi Goldberg invested in a new service that was created by media veteran Larry Adams to create Black Family. And it's supposed to have an extensive content library spanning over 20 syndicated series. I'm sure old reruns of Martin, 1,000+ hours of new diverse animation, which is great for the kids and other people who want to see something a little different, hundreds of music content offerings and more. And they have a partnership with the Africa Channel, so that should be pretty interesting. But what are some of the niche TV services and channels that you watch that you know you could never get on broadcast TV? So think about that and if it's something that you would want to pay for. So what's another reason that this is happening? It's cheaper. Over-the-top streaming services are coming for cable TV's crown. I mean, cable TV has been the top of the heap for so long, but now they've got all of this competition. And people are cutting the cord because they're tired of paying $200 or more a month for supposedly hundreds and hundreds of channels, most of which they'll never look at. Many of them are you have to pay to see the movies or the sports or whatever it is, and it's just not worth it for many people. Between the cost of carrying multiple services simultaneously and the sheer amount of content available, customers are getting picky about what they watch and what they pay for. We keep hearing about people who will subscribe for a month or a couple of months to one channel or to one streaming network to watch a popular show, then they cancel it and then they come back later. So it's a lot going on with these streaming wars, and it's not for the faint of heart. Some of the common business models include streaming video on demand, and these are very popular, but they can lose customers when those subscription rates go up. Traditional video on demand, called TVOD, and we'll get into the definitions in a minute. Ad-based video on demand, free ad-supported TV, FAST, and you have aggregators that are FAST, device manufacturers who own certain channels, and then you have the independents. Independent FAST channels include Crackle, Plex, and Tubi, for example. FAST that are owned by device manufacturers include the Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, Vizio Watch Free Plus and Amazon Freevee, which was previously IMDb TV. But when you look back at the streaming video on demand, those are probably the ones we think of when we think of streaming, at least a few years ago. You had Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, Max, Bright Cove, and a whole bunch more that I didn't have room to put on this slide. Then you have transactional video on demand. You only pay for what you watch, and you have access to new releases. So Amazon Prime Video, where you can rent or purchase content, including, that individual episode of Black Mirror or whatever it is that you want to see. You can also rent or purchase movies. Google TV, you have access to streaming net services such as Netflix and Hulu, but you can also purchase or rent movies and TV shows. Then there's iTunes. For a long time, you can watch shows, you can purchase movies, TV shows, or you can rent them. Redbox, Vudu, Skybox Office, those are all examples of transactional video on demand. Then you have your ad-based video on demand channels. And those business models include YouTube, where it's free of charge, but ads are embedded within the content as a way of monetization. And one of the things they do is sometimes they put so many ads in that you either leave or you go ahead and get a premium subscription, which is what I did. Then you have Peacock, Tubi, Pluto TV, and you see that some of these networks or these services are on different types of platforms because they want to reach the maximum amount of people. Then you have aggregators that are media owned: Pluto TV, Rakuten TV, the Roku channel, Samsung TV Plus, Tubi, Zumo, which is owned by Comcast, Tubi owned by Fox, and Sling, which is owned by the Dish Network. Then there are the independents, channels or services such as Plex, where you can watch free TV. And of course, you have to watch the ads, but it doesn't cost you anything. You have independent brands such as Black and Sexy TV, which is distributed on Apple TV, Roku, Android, and iOS apps. I've never watched this, but I did talk to the guy who started it about a year and a half ago, and he's been doing it since 2008 and doing very well with the independent and free content that you can get. So it's not free, but you can, it's independent, and he's been able to bring on a lot of shows that you normally wouldn't see. Crackle is another one, which is owned by Chicken Soup for the Soul TV. Now it's considered independent because they don't have a whole network behind them. But what about news? OTT is still a work in progress among local TV news stations. They're trying to figure out how do they juggle investments in digital transitions, which we've talked about, with an audience that's still heavily reliant on TV for their news consumption. Many companies are setting up around-the-clock streaming services, including OTT desks, to oversee those operations. And a report from Syracuse School of Journalism a couple of years ago showed that a lot of TV news companies are doing something with OTT as it becomes more and more popular. So they don't want to be left out. Allen Media Group owns something called Local Now, and this is a streaming service for local news, but of course you can get other things, as you can see here. But they give you weather, they give you local news. ABC 15 is involved in that. That's why you're seeing the Phoenix forecast, and they have partnerships all over the country. Developments range from producing exclusive online programs, including daily newscasts, to live streams and creation of a dedicated OTT anchor desk. Some stations have partnered with streaming platforms for distribution, including live newscasts, multiple daily live streams, and video on demand, including like Hulu and live TV. News and streaming. So why are they doing this? And what are they doing? Several stations have breaking news channels ready online as required, also for weather events. They can reach new audiences, they can go deeper with their content, and they can make extra revenue. In March, Arizona's Family launched the Sports and Entertainment Network, and they're really making a move in this area where you can watch soccer, you can watch other things on that, and I'd be interested to see how much money they're making there and if they consider it successful, but it's been going on for more than 8 months now. So for the discussion, I want you to talk about what's a news or information streaming service you would create. Make sure that you look at the resources and read more about this. I'll link the presentation on the resources area because you will be asked about it in your quiz. Please study for it so you can get the full amount of points, 25. Some of you need it. All right, thank you. Bye.